What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Lord Big Ed here representing the Catch. And in today's video, we are going to be breaking down the must start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into week number 5. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are not already a part of the Catch fam, we super encourage you. We really encourage you to hit that subscribe button below. Join the best community in all of fantasy football. And also drop down in those comments too. And let me know what questions you have. Regardless of position, I will do my best to help set up your teams ahead of this weekend slate of games. We got some good games with good offenses and good defenses playing, so I'm excited for it. Make sure to get those comments in there so we can interact with you. But with all that said, let's get into it. Let's get into the must-start kickers. At number 1, we're talking about the game I am most interested in this weekend. It's the Kansas City Chiefs versus Minnesota Vikings, and I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker. He was on my video last week because I knew he was going to dominate the Jets, and he did. He had 11 fantasy points. That was to back up a 12 fantasy point performance the week prior. Listen, this Minnesota Vikings Kansas City Chiefs game. It's going to have a ton of offense. Vikings defense obviously is horrendous, so I think the Chiefs are going to be able to move the ball down the field a heck of a lot more than they were able to against the Chiefs. It's a 53-point over-under, so we should see a lot of fireworks for sure. And I think that Harrison Butker is going to be able to have a ton of opportunities. We have seen it. I mean, last week he had 3 opportunities, and he can hit it from deep. I think he at least gets 1, maybe 2 deep shots, at least deep attempts. And I think that this is going to be another double-digit opportunity performance for my man Harrison Butker. Keep him in your lineups if you already have him. And if he is on the waivers, make sure to go ahead and get him. Hey, you might as well trade your best player for Harrison Butker because this guy is absolutely going to dominate this week. Up next, we're talking about the Tennessee Titans versus Indianapolis Colts matchup. We're talking about Nick Folk for the Tennessee Titans. This is going to be a good game, good division rivalry game. A lot of high stakes here, which means that both teams are going to be relying on their kicker here, right? So I want to just pause and say I do think Matt Gay for the Indianapolis Colts is a good streaming option here too. He had a terrible performance against the Rams, but the week before that he had 20 plus fantasy points. So I just do want to give a quick shout out to Matt Gay as well, who is one of my favorite kickers for the Indianapolis Colts. But Nick Folk is my priority here. I think he's going to be a really solid kicker. He's had 3 out of 4 weeks where he's had double-digit performance. That's because the Tennessee Titans really value ground and pound football and getting points on every single drive. That is going to be extremely important in this division matchup. This is in Indy too, so you've got a dome to help for that kicker to have no weather impact. I absolutely love Nick Folk in this game. Go out and get him. Under 15% rostered. He's like a 10% roster is what I'm seeing. So Nick Folk is going to be a great buy here. Go ahead and get him, put him in your lineups. I hopefully the Colts win it, but I think either way, both these kickers are going to be a fun one for sure to watch. Up next, I want to give a brief shout out to my next dude here, and that is Justin Tucker. I'm representing the Ravens here in the video, but listen, Justin Tucker obviously had a very poor performance so far this season. Very surprisingly bad performance this year. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if he is starting to get dropped, if he's not already dropped in most of your leagues because of how bad he's been. He did have a double-digit performance against Cincinnati. I'm going back to what I know best, and that's that Justin Tucker is the GOAT, right? He had a chance recently to get a deep shot kick, which would have obviously boosted his score more, just barely missed it. But Justin Tucker is a dude that you want in your lineup in these division AFC North rivalry matchups. This is a really good opportunity to go up against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which, you know, outside of when they're playing against Houston, I guess, is a pretty good defense, right? And I think Baltimore's not going to be able to fly up and down the field like they were against Cleveland, which just honestly, I think was all out of sorts after Deshaun Watson was ruled out. So I think that the Baltimore Ravens here are going to be able to move the ball against Pittsburgh, but I think it'll probably be a little bit lower scoring, especially I think it'll be a lower explosiveness in the offense than they showed against the Browns. I think Justin Tucker is going to be more needed. We saw 4 extra point attempts against Cleveland, which only led to that 4-point performance, but we have seen 3 attempts, field goal attempts that he had back in Cincinnati, which is a green matchup in terms of what sleeper rankings are. This is another good, favorable matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which have been friendly to the kicker position. I think that when you get the chance to go target a guy like Justin Tucker, which has been slumping recently, but is in store for a good matchup and a good matchup next week as well against Tennessee, I think you do it because I think the upside is absolutely just massive. He has those monster performances, and he does typically have that high consistency. So let's give him another chance this week. If he disappoints us, well, we'll have to reassess if he's going to make the must start kicker video again. But for right now, he's absolute must start kicker. Go ahead and grab him in a AFC North Division rivalry matchup for sure. Next, we're talking about a man for the Detroit Lions, Riley Patterson, the kicker for the Detroit Lions. The defense got a shout out on the must start defense video. If you have not already heard that or listened to that or watched that, make sure you go check that out too. It's already a release. But Riley Patterson, a great kicker. I've loved the guy over the past couple of years. He's been pretty consistent for sure. We've seen over the past couple of weeks, he's had 2 attempts for field goals, which is encouraging. He's been hovering around 8 to 10 points on average, I would say. Last couple of weeks, he's had 10, 8, and 7, respectively, going back to week 2. Week 1 was a little gross. He only had 3 points, but hey, that was Kansas City. Not the best matchup, right? This is a good matchup, though. Carolina is a really good matchup for kickers. I think Detroit's going to honestly just totally handle this Carolina Panthers team. I think defensively, they're going to destroy them. I think offensively, they're going to be able to move the ball pretty much at will. And I think Riley Patterson's going to get a lot of opportunities. I think he's pretty safe. I think he does have a little bit of a limit on his upside. I will put that out there. I would not expect like a 15 plus fantasy point performance from Riley Patterson this week. But hey, that's not too super common anyways. But what I do think you're going to get is you're not going to get a guy who totally ruins your fantasy team this week. I really do expect something maybe around his average of 8 to 10 fantasy points with the potential of maybe 12. But I think Riley Patterson is definitely a good start here. I'd go ahead and grab him. He's got Carolina this week and then Tampa Bay and Baltimore right before his bye week. So depending on what he does this week, he could be a pretty good hold for the next couple weeks. Next, I want to talk about a dude that is going up against the New York Jets. We're talking about the Denver Broncos kicker, Will Lutz. Couple things I've noticed so far when watching this Broncos team. First off, they suck. Second off, Sean Payton does tend to go to Will Lutz even when he's out of range. But what that says to me is he's got confidence in the guy, and he's going to give him those chances for those big, deep kicks, which are going to give you those extra point terms of, it's going to jack up the fantasy score for Will Lutz. He had 1 attempt last week, did finish with 9 fantasy points, though, because he got it from deep. And he's had around 2 attempts each week the weeks prior. I think that this is an absolute green light game against the New York Jets. I've been consistently trying to stream against them this season so far. I recommended that you do it last week when I told you to put Harrison Butker in there. And yes, Harrison Butker is probably a better kicker, but Will Lutz is no schnob neither. I mean, he's been pretty good his entire career. Hasn't had a fantastic season so far, but he is super available. So if you're in a deep league, Will Lutz, I do expect to be available for you. I think he is in store here to have maybe his best performance of the season. I would not be surprised if he had double digits at all. And with that big boom leg and a coach that relies on him, he definitely has the upside for 15 plus fantasy points, but he does have a much lower floor. So if you are trying to kind of get some competitive edge and maybe get a huge performance out of a kicker, this could be a sneaky upside guy I'm putting out there right now. Maybe a little bit of a wild card, but I think he is going to be solid, guys. Will Lutz, definitely a deep sleeper pick for here. And with all that said, this has been the must-start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into week 5. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you are not already a part of the Catch fam, I'd really encourage you to hit that subscribe button below, join the best community in all of fantasy football, and get in those comments and let me know if you have any questions or want any advice in terms of what to do with your team. Or it's also kind of becoming trade time too. So if you have any questions about certain trades you'd like my perspective on, just let me know in the comments and I'll get in there and try to answer them as fast as I can. And we'll try to help you set up your teams ahead of this weekend. But with all that said, this has been the Must Start Kickers, and you saw it here first at the Catch.